All right, Coach. Man, big time Saturday game. Indy comes to town. You guys played so well. I mean, I think that was the best football game we've seen, not only this season, but from this program in quite some time. Tell me about the emotions that you guys had after the game.
Well, the emotions were awesome after the game, and cold. Nice Gatorade bath, too. I don't know why they don't choose the water. It's got to be the Gatorade. It's a little sticky. But, man, that kind of environment, the emotions after the game, our kids were so dialed in that week of practice. They're starting to have more confidence about themselves. And so you just kind of had a feeling during the week of practice, even game day, pre-locker room speech, all that kind of stuff. It just felt like it was going to be a good day, and then especially just kind of seeing how the game went. Nobody panicked or anything. We just seemed really we seemed confident, control, and then of course afterwards, I think the emotions were not just the win against Indy, but just how far this program's come with these kids. How many seniors we've got here that haven't played in a game that had any implications since they've been here for something serious like this. Mm-hmm. And so all those emotions came out. It was pretty fun, and it was a fun evening afterwards, just being around some of the guys and kind of, enjoying this moment with them. It was pretty fun.
The first quarter was a completely defensive battle. It was scoreless. You go into the second quarter. Indy takes 10-0 lead. Again, the defense was stout. Cade threw one that got taken back for 6, 10-0. What was your message to the guys? You're going up against the top 10 team. Your defense has been playing well. The offense struggling a little bit in the first half at the beginning. Down 10-0, what did you tell your guys on the sideline?
Well, at that point, we weren't really saying a whole lot because I think we're at the point where our team doesn't get real panicky. I think early in the year we'd have to kind of give some, get their attention back because their eyes would start getting wide, like, hey, what's happening? Now they have a little bit more. They've been in some of these comebacks. They've been able to overcome some of these things. So there was just a lot more of a quiet confidence about them, just kind of like, okay, that happened. Let's go answer. So we didn't do a lot of talking in that second quarter when they kind of took that lead. It's just fun when you finally kind of are getting to a point where your team starts to believe they can do these things. So I think it echoed the message of the whole week, and even on Friday before in our walkthrough, I just reminded them. I said, tomorrow you're getting more and more of a taste of what playoffs feel like.
Right.
When you're having high quality teams that you're playing, it's going to be tough and it's going to be a grind the whole game. And we always talk about there's going to be highs and lows in the game. So don't panic when something bad happens. Turn around and go answer. And so to see them kind of live that out a little bit, it just was very calm on the sideline. It was a good feeling, and that's a sign of a mature team, and it's an intimidating thing too. And the other team doesn't see you really panicking much. It's just I was real proud of them for that.
And you guys just dominate on both sides of the ball. After that point, down 10-0, pick 6 happens. Cade gets back on again. We talked about this in post game. It's not a shock to anybody. You guys give him the ball right away. Go throw the ball. He's got confidence in himself. He's the kind of guy you mentioned too. Only as a redshirt sophomore that has so much maturity to shake that off and say, hey, I know I'm better than that. I'll go do better next time.
Yeah, he's probably one of the most mentally tough competitors I've ever coached. I mean, it's just it's so funny because he'll throw a pick or something or do something bad, but he comes to the sideline. It's God, that was stupid, and he just kind of moves on.
Right.
We do have confidence in him, and we know that usually Cade's the type that if he does something, if he makes a mistake, he's so wired to make up for it. Mm-hmm. So I think it was I always try to keep him loose too, and after the second interception, I just told him, I said, hey, I forgot to tell you we're in all black today, man. You kind of throw it to our guys, and he kind of chuckles and laughs, but the thing with Cade, and then after the third one, I told him, I said, I'm not too worried about it. Every time you throw a pick, you turn around and go throw a touchdown
right.
pass. So he just kind of has that mental fortitude to just move on, and then the team knows that too. So there's not a lot of doubt that happens. Quarterback mistakes are more highlighted. You don't realize how many missed blocks or missed tackles that turn into devastating touchdowns or lack of touchdowns. But a quarterback's mistake is everybody's seeing it. So
the interception was tipped anyway.
That's what I'm saying. It's just one of those things where it's the fans, everybody kind of put a little bit more stock in a mistake that a quarterback makes, but you see them throughout the whole game. game that impact games. They're
Yeah.
just not as focused on. You don't know until you watch the film.
Yeah, well, it's crazy too. I mean, like I said, they struggle early, but he breaks the school record, throws over 500 yards. Never happened in Lindenwood history for quarterback. Just doing what he does, and not just Cade, but the entire offense. We mentioned Nash. I mean, just out of the backfield, what he can do rushing, but then out of the screen pass game, taking that one for 55 yards, and it's just what he does, and it opens up things for everybody. When Peyton's been double teamed, or Henneman, or Najee Jackson. I mean, there's always we again sound like broken records, but. Yeah. They end up stepping up every week, and Nash again making a big play on that 55-yard run.
Yeah, it's funny because in practice when we do Skelly and stuff for 7-on-7, we don't have the O-line, D-line there, and we're just doing the pass Skelly of practice, and every once in a while they'll throw a check down, which the long runs with Nash were just check downs. I mean, it's his last option, just like nothing's open, hit a check down. And I always tease him in practice, well, it's easy to throw check downs in 7-on-7. I mean, we being an old defensive guy, we used to always say, hey, don't cover the no cover zones that 5 yards, because nobody throws check downs. So every time Cade throws a check down and he comes off the field, he goes running by me. He's like, "Hey, coach, there was the check down." I'm kind of like, "Hey, I'll take it." I tease him about it. So he lets me know when he throws a check down, especially when you get a check down to Nash, it's going to go for a while.
Oh yeah.
And so it's another great luxury to have in our offense, is another weapon in him.
And then we expected the guys to score. I mean, we knew Indy's defense was there, but you guys have shown game in and game out you can move the football. The question was with the defense. I think that they've been showing a lot of maturity the last few weeks, improving every single week. But this week may have been the best defensive performance I've seen at my time in Lindenwood. I mean, just smash mouth defense the entire day. Yeah,
I think what we found, I give a lot of credit to Coach Inam and the defensive staff for the game plan they put in. I mean, it was, what we saw on film with a lot of teams that were playing Indy is that they, sometimes with offenses like Indy's that are having a lot of success, a lot of confidence, you go into those games and start trying to do some things that you don't normally do, trying to stop them. We kind of did the opposite. We just simplified. There was two main things that we had to do to win the game defensively and have that kind of output. We had to contain the quarterback because he made a lot of plays on his feet coming into this game, and what we call a cage rush, where we're not getting upfield and not letting him step up into those gaps that are open where he went. So we did a great job of that. And the other thing was just keeping our D linemen just staying, we always say hats and gaps, where you saw their run plays and stuff of successful explosive run plays in the prep was when you see D linemen getting reached and they've got, they do a great job with their zone scheme at Indy. And so, to see our D line just keeping hats and gaps and had that, the back didn't know where to go, and we were able to do that. The only time when we weren't cage rushing, then if we were playing some man defense or something, we always had a spy on him. The only time that he hurt us was if we let him get out a couple times, and the one time we just, the guy that's supposed to be spying him didn't spy him. He kind of did something different, and that comes down to you got to do your job, and that happens, but and so the only times he hurt us is when we kind of hurt ourselves by not doing what we were supposed to do. So, he came into this game, Indy did, with giving up 4 sacks, and they left here with we got him 5 times, and so I give a lot of credit to up front on our D line especially. And just guys running to the football, and we tackled really well. That was a really good running back, so we emphasized tackling all week. So simple game plan. We've got the guys that we believe can line up and play, and I think it was it's that trust factor. We told the guys we're only going to call a few calls today. We're going to line you up and let you guys go play, and that's what they did. Did a good job.
The defense in the first half too, especially like you talk about it. That 4th down and 1, on the 1 yard line, they got the best running back in the GLVC going in there, leads the nation or leads the conference in touchdowns on the ground. You guys stuff them there. Another one, Ricky, who's been phenomenal punt returns this year. Not really yardage wise, but just taking care of the football.
Yep.
He fumbles, gets them inside the 25. Again, you guys hold them to a field goal. It's little things like that that were just huge parts of the game. Parts of the game.
And that's, we talk about all the yards Cade did, all this stuff. The goal line stand and the catches and the yards by the receivers and all these things. But that's what I'm saying. It's the little things. I think that goal line stand was a key part of that game that really shook their confidence. It got our confidence going, and and again, penetration from a D line is devastates zone zone offensive schemes. And Dwight Dantzler penetrated that fourth and goal play, made the back break his feet, and Drew, as he cut back, Drew and Bubba are right there to get him on the ground with our other D lineman there too. But that, you just look at the play of the game, might have been Dwight Dantzler just bubbling that center and guard to make that back have to cut back. And, those are the things that happen that you don't see until you break down film.
Right.
But it might not make a highlight reel, but those are little things that have are key parts of games.
You guys now moving to 5-0 in the GLVC. You're alone atop the conference. I guess people would always ask going into a week, you got Missouri S&T, a team that obviously, you guys don't look over anybody, but a team that has been successful this season, 6-3 coming into it, 3-2 in conference, have been in some big-time games. So, again, we talk about this after every win, but how do you go with, beating a team like Indy, a top 10 team, and keeping these guys focused going into the next week?
It's really got to be our team that decides to do that, because we as a coaching staff have hammered it on Monday. We talked, we're trying to go through our priorities that we talk about. The kids have done a great job buying into that. I think our whole season turned a little bit when we go back to, 5 podcasts ago, where we talked about, we sat and listened. We sat and listened to our team and wanted to get their input and really kind of hear their feelings about things. And I think that was a pivotal moment for our season, that we sat back as coaches and wanted to kind of hear their thoughts. And we took a lot of those things that they were saying, and I think that built a trust factor. And so, for a while, some coaches give a lot of speeches and kids kind of roll their eyes and say, whenever wins the game. I think they're really buying into, that the things that they need to do to win games. So, our theme this week was do more. Probably our best week of practice was last week against Indy, because they knew the impact of that game. We explained to them, we got all the talk that kids are, when you're a program like this that hasn't done this in a long time, and it's a first to be sitting here talking about conference, possible championship, and possible playoffs and all these things. It can worry you as a coach, because you're trying to hope, hey, don't talk about it. Right. I've just found that when you're just transparent, talk about it. So we spent part of our Monday meeting, talking about where they're at, celebrating the fact that we have playoff possibility, we have conference championship possibility, we have all these things, and we talked about it for a while, and then we moved on to, now if you want all those things,
right? Yeah,
you got to do more this week. Now you've got Missouri S&T has got 4 or 5 bullet points that I promise you that their Coach Drury, who's a good friend of mine, I've known him a long time when he was a young coach, and got to know him really well, doing a heck of a job at S&T, first year coming in doing that. But I know him well enough that it's going to be, hey, 25% of their team comes from St. Louis,
right.
So if, a lot of those kids are going to feel like, well, Lindenwood didn't even recruit us. So you're going to have that going on. You're going to have, there's 4 more other bullet points that I know that he's going to be driving to his kids. So we put those up and just told the guys, they're not going to be intimidated because we beat Indy. You could see the faces and you could kind of see the kids, I think, and then I think the big judge is what a Tuesday practice is like. Is right. Tuesday's practice loose, and we're not. That wasn't. They were focused. They had a similar practice than they had the week before. So I think they buy into that, because you just gotta. So that's been our big push, is to do more and know that this is probably even a bigger game than last week's. Well, it is not probably. It is a bigger game than last week.
And S&T, too, you noticed 2 weeks ago when they lost to Indy pretty handily. I mean, some people around the conference and that have been paying attention to D2 football this season expected that game to be closer than it was. The next week, Southwest Baptist, who has been struggling, but, have had some good games here and there, they got whopped 62-0 by S&T. So it looks like the Miners are trying to make an impact here and show that they still a good football team.
Yeah, I don't buy that. I don't buy that loss against Indy, because as far as that wouldn't happen every week if they played them again. That wouldn't happen. Sometimes you have a night where you just things didn't go well. I mean,
right.
And so I get the whole score thing, and Indy played great, and S&T just had one of those nights, because I know that I know they're a heck of a lot better than that, and our team knows that too. I mean, they've beat an FCS program this year in Texas Southern. I know, like I said, Coach Drury is a very good coach. They're going to be very sound. I think their offensive line is probably even a little bit more physical than what we saw last week. They do a really good job, and they've put up points and they put up yards offensively, and they're sound defensively. I think our kids see that on film, and they've stopped looking at like teams that we've played before and said, well, their record is this, and this is how many points they give up. Now they're saying, okay, that doesn't work. Teams like that have given us fights, so we're going to go into every game. So, they've done way too much to get kind of look at one game that they just, I guarantee you, they just didn't have a good night. But if they played that game 2 or 3 more times, the score wouldn't be that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of teams in the conference that have just been good all season long, and that's why it's been a roller coaster. You don't know who's going to show up win. So it's going to be a good game on Saturday, obviously. What do you see from them? I mean, obviously, a little bit different offense. They pass the ball a little bit more than Indy did, but they're still pretty balanced. Defense gives up a few more points that we've seen so far this season than Indy did, but overall, pretty similar team.
Well, they've got I know, like I just said, their offensive line is where I kind of start when I'm looking at an offense, and coached well. They're physical. That's one thing they're probably going to see a little bit more physical of an offensive line. They're a little bit more power minded sometimes in their run game. They can do zone, but they do a good job with power. They got a very good running back. Quarterback's very. You look at quarterbacks like last week and say, well, this guy, is he as mobile? Can be. It's not what they do all the time, but the guy's made plays with his feet. They run some zone read stuff to keep you honest. They got a wide receiver that NFL guys are kind of just peeking at, and keeping an interest in. That's obvious. So so that's what I mean. This is not this is a team. They're 6-3 and they've beat some teams handily. And so I respect their offense a lot. I mean, and that's what I think our team's seeing, and that's why they're not taking this thing lightly.
Defensive-wise, going into this game, to continue what you did last week, you mentioned it already in this podcast that you guys gave them some calls, obviously, but then you let them go play football. Is that kind of the similar, I guess, word to them? Yeah,
we're just, we've kind of realized, that square peg in a round hole kind of thing. We at the start of the year, we've wanted to be this offensively, and then we've realized, we're kind of going with what our kids are comfortable with, what we're good at. I think everybody now knows this late in the season when you're playing Lindenwood, probably what you're going to see offensively. So there's no secrets that, their defense is, again, a good defense. They play. They like to play a lot of coverage. You'll see a lot of guys that drop into coverage, and so they're sound that way. So, there's going to be, there's going to not be as many windows out there. I think they're smart. They're smart coaches. They're going to really try to take away the deep ball. It's just stuff that they see on film now. So there's no trade secrets anymore when you're this late in the season.
Right,
People kind of know what you're getting. But we've just kind of simplified offense, defense, our playbooks, and give our kids what they do well and be confident in how we do it, and respect your opponent. That's kind of been our model here the last 5 weeks.
You guys can obviously attest to this, but it's nice to give those guys that freedom, saying basically we trust that you have the ability to get this job done. You have the smarts to know that these plays by hand, where you don't have to be so tight. You just go out and play football, and I think that's what makes the players play their best.
Well, it comes from that meeting we had, 5 weeks ago. To hear our guys say, "Hey, coach, we talk trust on this team all the time. We want you to trust us." And sometimes, when we realize that in some of those early games where maybe we were trying to protect them by our calls, and they were like, "No, man, we want to be aggressive. We want to go do what we do." And our coaches, like I said, trust them, and they listen to what the kids had to say, and it's been giving them more confidence, and so I really attribute that the success to this point where we're at, to that little tipping point of our season a few weeks ago when we had that conversation, and it's been a good deal.
So what are some things you would want to see this week, kind of finishing out the home schedule and then going into Southwest next week, just to kind of finish out the regular season?
Yeah, I think just, it's the bullet points we talked about, kind of like we've kind of said, it's nothing about the past anymore. It's not the not looking past 162 now. That's kind of been our theme, is the next program win. So, I mean, we're all about 162, and we've got, like I told you, that little visual of that map we always show them is that road that's going out in the distance. As there's lightning out there, and if you look past 162 and far down there, you're going to get struck. So it's kind of that, the next game mentality. So it just kind of echoing what I've already said. Not looking ahead, we haven't accomplished anything yet that we want. So why waste time with the thought of that? Let's stay in the present and be one day at a time. So I said Monday in our meeting, to win games you got to win practice on Tuesday. You got to win practice on Wednesday. So we'll try to win this practice today.
The Lions host the 6-3 Missouri S&T Miners this Saturday, November 9th at 1 p.m. Again, the final regular season home game for your Lions at Hunter Stadium. So get your tickets online, lindenwoodlions.com. And if you can't make it out, though, we'll have all the broadcasts for you on LUTV or the GLVC Digital Network, and also 89.1 The Wood on your FM dial. Coach, congrats on a great season, man, so far, and we're excited to see the next 2 weeks and hopefully finish out with all the wins.
Thanks, TJ. It's been fun to this point, man. So we still got a couple more.
Yeah, we do. We'll keep it going. Hopefully even a couple weeks past that a little bit.
One day at 162, right?
Absolutely.